I think that when a film is great, you know straight away. The minute you watch it,
I
you know because your nerves are tingling, your brain cells are working, and you're trying to say, "Oh my God, that's a great film. How did they do that? Why did they do that? How did, there are all these questions happening, and then it leaves you with this, it's like going to have a fine glass of wine.
In your opinion, like talking about, bad audio and things that go bad in a movie, what what are the main mistakes that you see filmmakers making when they, go into a film festival, when approaching a film festival, whether it is submitting their film or the way they go about a film festival in general?
Well, I think that there are two extremes. One is submitting something and then not having a totally inactive attitude, and that you're not providing the right sort of materials. You're not actually every now and then trying to connect up to find out what's happening. And the opposite of that is
Mm,
actually someone who is contacting you every other day and trying to sell this film to you. And that is the complete opposite of what I would want it to happen, because I don't have enough time to spend every
yeah.
minute of my day answering the same person where the film is. Now, I think that it's okay to make an inquiry, like, like for example, keeping in touch and say, I'm possibly going to be looking at another festival, and I just want to, and the timing is going to be a bit problematic. I'm just wanting to
Yeah.
let you know ahead of time. Or I have actually engaged a sales agent now, and the sales agent needs to be involved, because the biggest mistake a lot of filmmakers make is that there is a difference in what a filmmaker wants and what a sales agent wants. It is so contrasting that you can end
Mm,
up in a situation where the filmmaker tells the festival, I really, really, really want to be at your festival. Can I come to your
yeah.
festival? It's really important to me. And then suddenly you find that the sales agent sweeps in, and the sales agent say, oh, I'm sorry, you can't have the film after it's been programmed. And that really, really annoys programmers,
I bet.
because
I
you're not
bet.
on the same page. So I always say to filmmakers, the biggest mistake that you can, when you have a film and something is going to happen that's going to affect its ability to play at a festival, you need to
Mm,
keep the festival informed. It also annoys
mm,
me, especially when that happens, is because sometimes when you program a film and you already started down the track of actually laying out the program and you're getting everything
mm-hmm.
ready, and you really turn down, say, so I've chosen 60 films. I've turned down 2,000 films, you know?
Yeah.
And suddenly out of the
Yeah.
60, one film that I've chosen turns around and says, I've changed my mind. I have to go and find someone or someone's film that can fill the gap. And
Mm,
at the last minute, it's hard because filmmakers are sensitive. If you turn around and say to someone, I'm sorry, but your film didn't make it. And then suddenly you go to them and say, oh, actually, the festival started in 2 weeks' time. We'd quite like to have your film right now. No, some people would do it. The majority of the people would be a little bit like put off by the fact that it had already been turned down, because it is a relationship
mm,
that you're trying to build. And it's a relationship that's not a one-time relationship. Like my relationship with my filmmakers is that they join my family, the Doc Edge family. And so therefore I look after them. If I bring them in, I need to honor, I need to respect them. And if you don't honor and respect them, they'll never come back, because what you want to do is for them to tell their friends, they'll
mm.
also submit new films in the future. And if that doesn't happen, then in fact the festival's really lost, part of the following that the festival needs to continue to nurture, which is the filmmakers. So that's a huge mistake. There are lots of little
Mm.
mistakes, and there are a lot of things that people need to think about. I think it's actually being very clear as to what you're expecting a festival to be able to do for you. Being able to ask the right questions. If I say to a filmmaker, I am giving you the let's say the Asia Pacific premiere of the film. And I
Yeah.
certainly don't want to hear close to the date that the film has actually been submitted and has been accepted in another festival in the Asia Pacific region that's coming before me. And sometimes you don't think about that. The other thing is that when your sales agent sells it to streamer, and all of a sudden a streamer
Mm.
swoops in and says, "Sorry, we're going to take it out of the program." That's really annoying as well. So I always say to filmmakers, if you are going to be choosing to be with Doc Edge or any festival, tell your sales
Ah.
agent to make sure that any deals or any festivals that you're going to be applying for realize that you've already given a commitment because we see it contractual. And some filmmakers get really surprised that we get so upset about that, but we spend money. We really got a
Mm.
graphic designer. We got everyone's working on it, and we've booked a theater. We've got a particular slot for you, and suddenly we can't put it in. We lose money. And festivals are not made of money. We're like in my case, we're a not-for-profit organization. So we're not a
Yeah.
for-profit organization. We have to make sure that we continue to be able to program and sell films to audiences so that we can run the festival again.
Yeah. You guys are involved because you said that, like you guys are involved in some of the distribution process or sell process or not at all?
No, we are. So what we do is that we're not so much involved in like a full-time distributor or a full-time sales agent. But what we do have is that we do have markets and we do make sure that we have instituted a year-round market. So what it is that a film that's been selected or a film that we have put into the market, their project is going to be seen and be available to anyone looking to acquire films uh,
Mm.
throughout the whole year. So if they're interested in that, so we are facilitating. I wouldn't say that we're a sales agent, we're more facilitator. Although quite
Gotcha.
often we find that filmmakers have asked us if we could take on the sales agency. It's just not something that, at the end of the day, you've got to do what you do best. You can continue to
Mm.
grow, but unless you're well resourced enough and unless you feel that you're at least doing 75 to 80% good in the areas that you are currently working in, don't take something new on until you're ready.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
we also have with some films been showing the films across the country during the non-festival period. So in a way, you would say that we're like an exhibitor. We are like a in a and we
I see.
help cinemas that are looking for content get content as well.
Got it. Oh, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. And Alex, I would like to understand a little bit of the dynamic that there is in the way that you guys choose a film, because I think maybe all my questions will lead us there, but I would say the main thing I would like to understand, maybe the easiest way to phrase the question is like, how did you choose a movie? Is like based on, what it will be an appeal to the audience for artistic merit, because you know that this will do well in a certain region, or because you believe in what the movie is about? How do you make this decision when you choose a movie as a film festival?
Firstly, I think that when a film is great, you know straight away. The minute you watch it,
Right?
you know because your nerves are tingling, your brain cells are working, and you're trying to say, "Oh my God, that's a great film. How did they do that? Why did they do that? How there are all these questions happening, and then it leaves you with this. It's like going to have a fine glass of wine. You drink it, you know immediately, okay, this is really great wine. This is amazing, and you know that people that are going to taste it or watch it will feel the same way. So that's the first
Yeah.
thing. So that's the group. That's the first group that I'll put aside. And I'll say that that group of films are films that we really want to have them because they're going to be popular. And the films are like just stunning. Stunning in stunning means it for me is a film that leaves you with a lasting impression, a film that puts an
Mm.
imprint on your mind and your heart and your soul. It's a film that you go out and you are either uh, so shook up you can't speak, or you're so shook up and you want to speak all the time. So it's one or the other. It's that feeling like, oh my God, I just saw something just so incredible. It may be incredible because of subject matter, it may be incredible because of the way you feel,
Uh,
but it's just that whole combination. The second load of films that I would tend to choose is the films that I think are films that are impactful. So every
mm,
filmmaker makes a film. They want the film to be seen, but underneath and behind every filmmaker's dream is that the film is going to make an impact. Because no one makes a
mm,
film that, well, I mean, some people do. Some people do make films that are just entertaining, but most people make films because they want it to do something. So if a film achieves in making you reach out into your wallet or making you reach out into
mm,
the internet to find out more about it, or that you're put into a position where you think to yourself, oh, okay, I need to change my behavior or I need to change my attitude because I've become aware of something that I wasn't aware of. I think that's really powerful. And that doesn't necessarily
yeah.
mean that it's the wow moment. It's more of that, huh, the thinking mind moment, where you're thinking to yourself and you're thinking to yourself, okay, there's some really good points that I never thought about. And then you realize when you are thinking about that, that it's going to be that same moment for other people that are watching it. So that's really important. Um, then there are films that must be seen. They're films that must be seen because these are films that no one else will tell. These are films that can't be heard, can never be seen because the circumstances have come together so much so that one filmmaker has been able to tell a story about a community or a person without a voice. And that's really important
Mm-hmm.
because we live in a society that we want to be able to give voice to the voiceless. We want to be able to represent the people that haven't had the opportunity to be seen. Because when people are disenfranchised, that's when they withdraw away from society. And if you want to give them the opportunity to engage with society, you need to give them the platform to be able to do so.
Mm,
And I
mm,
think that
mm.
documentary filmmakers have a role to play. Documentary festivals have a role to play in this. Um,
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the last thing that I say would be just pure entertainment. It still factors in there because at the end of the day, if a film goes in there and it's just pure entertainment, it's a flight of fantasy, not so much a flight of fantasy, but a feel good documentary. And I tell you, one of the things
Yeah.
that I am very big on at the moment is that we all documentary film festivals tend to program for intellectuals. They tend to program doom and gloom because they feel that they need to bring light to the doom and gloom, bring light to the dark. I can tell
Uh-huh.
you that that's a really good way to think about what documentary filmmakers can do. But I think that what we have forgotten is that light also comes from light. And if you have the opportunity to be able to expand on the light of a film, because the film is happy, the film is celebratory, the film is joyous, you still go away and you're still impacted by it. But people don't do that. They have they tend to think that everything needs to be, oh my God, if we don't do this, we're gonna die. Oh my God, it's the oh my God moment. No, my oh my God moment is a, oh my God, that's so beautiful. That's another powerful
Mm.
moment for me. And sometimes it could be something about music, it could be about art, it could be about even the beauty of community and the beauty of family, the beauty of resilience, those things that we need to talk about so that we celebrate
Yeah.
because they're inspirational and they give inspiration to the next generation of people that may be going through something similar.
And maybe with that, I think what often happens with the young filmmaker is that when they actually try to do that, they do it in a way that is a little bit played by the book.
Mm.
Like what you were saying before about the music, you're telling me what to feel kind of approach. And so, usually I see a lot of that, right? Not necessarily in film festival, but I think maybe you watch it on different platforms and you find those kind of movies that are a little bit like that, where you're trying to tell me what to feel. And usually if you're trying to tell me what to feel, you put the music in that moment talking about that beautiful thing, but you're trying to like you're trying too hard
Mm,
to make me feel that, to celebrate that. So it's interesting, like you could celebrate something but not necessarily push me to feel like that. Actually, like, do it in a way that actually you show me the beauty of it without pushing that onto me, right?
absolutely. And I think documentary
I,
filmmakers cannot be preachers. They're not preachers. Documentary filmmakers are
I agree.
facilitators. They facilitate the
I agree with you.
story.
Yeah, I always say that for me is a way of asking the right question.
Hmm.
I don't control the answer.
No.
I'm genuine to understand something, or for you to see, for me to see if you ever ask that question.
Yeah.
And then to me, it's like after you watch the movie, I would like to be there in the cinema theater to see what's going on. And usually, the part that I like the most after I screen my movies is that I go and like those questions come and you actually get to interact with the audience and you see how they're processing now. And that's the most rewarding moment for me, to see what happens now, what the movie has caused, and what is the trajectory that they're on. And it's not always the same. I think I had to learn the hard way that you cannot control that
No,
part.
that's right.
You gotta let it.
I think the one
You gotta let it.
storytelling tool that filmmakers don't use a lot of is actually leaving questions for the audiences to answer, to discover. So along the way, instead of just leading them to a particular destination, is leaving them to particular points where they reflect on the
Oh
story
yeah.
or the question. And then even when you finish, even though you finish on a high note or you finish on a low note, you still need people to go away and think about it because it's the thinking that keeps the long-lasting impression. Because if I finish the
Yeah.
story and there's no more to think about, then I don't have questions. I don't necessarily need to do anything anymore, but you want them to be able to continue to think about it and to be able to say to their friends and their family, go and see this film. It's just so provocative. It's made me realize these things. I'm not going to tell you about what I found out, but you should go and find out about it yourself. You want that sort of reaction.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think when I create the movie, I care about the subject at the same time. Because I care about the subject, I care about the audience. And that most likely means that in the way I care about this subject now, I would like to see what happens when an audience is exposed to this. I don't want to change the agenda of the
No.
audience. I don't have an agenda to do that. That means that I don't
Yeah.
care. It means I care more about what's my point, and I don't really care about the audience. And yeah,
The
it's
the other thing,
it's good. It's
the other
good.
thing that I think
Mm.
is really quite essential for documentary film festivals to do is to be courageous, because documentary film festivals need to be courageous. They need to be willing. They need to be willing to stand up to criticism, because every film can potentially have two types of audiences: those that believe and love it, and those that hate it and they have very ingrained views about the particular topic. Now, you cannot, as a documentary film festival, be afraid of causing controversy. In fact, documentary filmmakers and festivals should be telling stories that cause people to learn, to want to talk, to be able to voice your opinion. The opinion might be against what the film is stating, but you need to stimulate the conversation because,
Yeah,
audiences need to understand each other, because there's no way we can move forward in society unless there's dialogue. If dialogue is stifled, then there's no way we're all stand still. We're all going to be ingrained in our own camps, and we're not going to move forward to find a mutual ground. The mutual ground, it's not difficult. If the mutual ground, even it is, I don't agree with you, but I can understand why you think that way. This is how
yeah,
I feel. But film festivals in the last 5, 6 years, I think film festivals, and I don't like criticizing other festivals, but there are a lot of festivals and known festivals that become quite timid and become very much unwilling to challenge the status quo of the dollar. the status quo of being able to lose audiences or to lose their funders or their corporate sponsors. And I think that's so dangerous because then you're on a slippery slope towards just programming things that are going to
Just
be sanitized.
I don't know much about what's the status of film festival, how much they do that. I do think that there is a tendency nowadays for that to become a thing, and it seems like in every, uh, like in wherever you go, like wherever you go, it seems like the dollar somehow it seems is taking more importance than it should take.
Yeah.
And in fact, one thing that I loved about the previous conversation we've had, it was how, like you mentioned this, how a film festival should be bold and
Yeah.
courageous. I don't think you hear much of that. I agree with that. And yeah, I guess I don't know. What? Why do you think is that? What do you think that that happens? Like it's
Well, I think that we're all dependent on being able to live another day as a festival. And that's unfortunately very much dependent on funding, public pressure,
mm,
and also,
mm,
whether or not our funders and sponsors, you know, recognize the dilemma that we're in and actually
uh,
support us making uh, courageous decisions, or they just want to support us as long as their customers or their
uh,
electorates are not complaining. But I think that's not just festivals. It's just what's happening in the world right now. It's like,
yeah.
with there's so much public pressure that gets put on. Last year we had a film called The Other Wall, which was by a filmmaker called Sean Langan, and Sean's a
Mm,
quite a well-known British journalist and filmmaker. He went behind the Russian lines to cover what the Russian troops are doing in the Ukraine war. Now, the immediate
okay.
reaction that we got from a lot of people was that you're actually showing Russian propaganda. They haven't seen the film.
Uh,
It's just Russian propaganda. Take it off. We're going to protest. We're going to stop you from showing this. And we said no, because you've got to ask yourself, can you make a judgment about a film until you've seen it? Because when you watch the film, you realize that what he's doing is showing the ridiculous situation that the Russian soldiers find themselves in when they have to follow a particular line or they have to follow a particular command in a situation in a war that they don't actually they're not invested in, or they find themselves quite ridiculous. But you can't get that because what people tend to do is that I'm going to film everything from the
yeah.
Ukrainian point of view and how they're suffering. But you also need to think about the psyche of the people that are actually putting the Ukrainians at war. So that conversation is
Completely.
important. But when you write to us and say that you're actually doing a just injustice to the Ukrainian community by showing
Mm,
this, you're actually telling us to take it off without actually finding out about this. And in fact, what we found is that we had a couple of filmmakers that were Ukrainian that were living in New Zealand, and they were obviously quite upset about this, but they took the time to watch it because they were thinking about, okay, documentaries are meant to be causing you to
yeah.
understand, and so therefore there must be a reason why Doc Edge chose it. And when we showed it, they came back to us and said, "We didn't realize what the film was about. We now fully understand why you wanted to show the film." But it's those moments. A few years ago, you might have heard that there was a film called Jihad Rehab that was by a woman called
Mm,
Meg Smaker. It was chosen by Sundance, and at the very last minute, it was pulled out by Sundance. And it was pulled out by Sundance because they were having problems. There were a lot of people saying that a white woman shouldn't be doing a story about the ISIS terrorists or so-called ISIS terrorists that are kept in captivity. So they put a lot of pressure, and Sundance bowed to it, and they pulled the film out. And the filmmaker went into PTSD, like she really went through a really difficult time because look, no one No one does a film because they are malicious. Yeah, some people do, but most filmmakers do films because they truly believe there's something they can bring to the conversation. She
Yeah, true.
lived in the Middle East. She speaks Arabic,
Uh,
and she was able to get the authorities to let her into uh, the camps, the prison cells, to talk to the detainees. She got conversation which no one else got. And someone said to me, but anyone else could have got that. No, because an an Arabic man would not be able to tell the story because they would be looked at with a lot of
yes.
suspicion because there's a lot of sectarian sensitivities. If you were to bring a white person in there, none of the terrorists will talk to them because immediately a white man is just going to be someone that's considered to be maybe that whole thing about I'm fighting you guys anyway, so why would I want to talk to you? But here was a white woman that spoke perfect Arabic going in there, wearing, the necessary outfits, talking to people, and they were all taken by surprise. And that whole thing, the breakdown of conversation, breakdown of the walls came when they were all saying, "Well, why are you doing this? How come you speak perfect
Yeah.
Arabic?" And she broke in the
Uh,
wall and got the conversation going. So we showed it, and we gave it the world premiere that it didn't have at Sundance, and we showed it at Doc
mm,
Edge. And after that, we had a lot of support from a lot of people. A lot of people would not say it. It was really funny. It's also that fear because if I were to say something that is going to not necessarily put down, but be critical about a particular festival or a particular policy or a particular programmer, I can forget about my film getting in anywhere because I'm going to be seen to be a pariah. I'm going to be seen to be someone that is causing trouble. Because it's always that whole thing about let's not bite the hand that feeds you.
mm.
But at the end of the day, we're filmmakers. Come on. We need to be tough. We need to have tough skin. We need to be able to take criticism. We need to be able to make decisions, and we need to make the right decisions. If we haven't made the right decision, we should be willing to talk about it, and I think that it's that the thing is that filmmakers need to be loved. Like I said, this woman at PTSD, she cried when she arrived and she had her first public screening and she had a Q and
Uh,
A. She cried because she said that she had spent months being vilified and she kept thinking to herself there was something wrong with her. There was something wrong with her. Why couldn't she see the problem? What was wrong? Because everyone vilified her. Now, it's one thing criticizing someone is another that makes them a villain. And you cannot make someone a
no,
villain.
when I first, was trying to reach out to you, I remember running on that. I think in another interview you talked about that, or I read a couple of articles over that story, and I remember. I still haven't been able to watch the movie, but I remember that story. Yeah, and yeah, unfortunately, it is a little bit like that. I think though, like the reason why I appreciated you saying that we should be bold as a film festival, talking as a director of a film festival, I think even more the filmmakers should be in the way. Like I do consider a true documentary director somebody that doesn't just want to entertain, but somebody that also care about something and wants to connect with the audience, wants to establish that conversation that you said.